Now, the IRS, they just announced this week that they want to start tracking all of the tips that workers earn so that they can be taxed for it. This is all part of Biden's so-called Inflation Reduction Act.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the bill, as amended, is passed.
A few moments later.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Is the psyops working? Is the propaganda affecting you? Is the gaslighting effective? These are all the things the mainstream media and, of course, the big tech oligarchs want to try in order to sway the election. They have to, of course, cover up Kamala Harris's sordid past and then replace it with something completely different, something very middle of the road, dare I say almost something conservative. Of course, the problem is we have her on record. We have her on video with all of her horrible stances, all of which will be revealed as the campaign continues. But of course, right now, let's take a look at Andrew Schulz really calling out Charlamagne by saying, who the heck is voting for Kamala Harris? Because we don't buy it.
Get the fuck out. Ain't nobody voting for Kamala Harris.
Watch.
What? By the way, it's been so funny to see everybody jump on the Kamala train immediately. Like, it was unanimously accepted that she was kind of boring, weird, and goofy for the last 4 years? Maybe even before that. She got lobotomized by Tulsi Gabbard in the debate. Everybody said the exact thing.
One bad bar.
Like, there's a million different things. Everybody was talking about her actual record, the fact that she's keeping these people in jail with the drug.
Not true, though.
But whatever, that was still the conversation.
That was the narrative. I got
the narrative. Like, and then as second she becomes the nominee, everything was forgotten. Immediate amnesia. You always talk about how like Republicans get in line. Democrats get in line, bro.
But that,
just, yes. Who should I follow? Yes. Whatever you say, Daddy.
But that's why it was good for President Biden to step down.
Right.
Because he was causing disarray when there didn't need to be no disarray. Nobody wanted to follow you. You need a leader.
So you're saying she's an upgrade to Joe Biden?
100%.
I just don't know anything about her. Like, I just haven't heard anything about her. I don't know what she's good at. I don't know what she believes in. She just seems like a cog in the Democratic machine. And let me clarify.
What's wrong with that?
There are cogs in the Republican machine.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just another, if I don't exactly, if I want to know what I'm voting for, and I'm going to vote for a person and a human being, then I want to know what their specific beliefs are. I still need for her to convince me that she's worthy of running this country.
I'm with you. I'm not, listen, but that's the whole point.
I know Trump
I'm with
is.
You. That's the whole that's the whole point of campaigning.
But I need her to convince me.
That's the whole point of campaigning.
So Andrew Schulz brings up a great point there, all right? We know Donald Trump can run this country and run this country incredibly effectively. We do not know anything about Kamala Harris aside from her terrible left-wing ideals that she has espoused in the past. And speaking of those things, from the very beginning of this video, obviously, she's the one who actually enacted the tax on tips. And now she's flip-flopped trying to steal away Donald Trump's thunder by saying, hey, we're not going to tax your tips anymore, all right? So where exactly does Kamala Harris come from? What is the result of her? Well, one big sticking point, of course, is that she actually propagated that fund that was bailing out protesters, right? The peaceful protesters. And what happened to those peaceful protesters? Well, if you look over here, a man freed by the bail fund supported by Kamala Harris is charged with murder. Look over here, a Minnesota man freed by bail fund promoted by Kamala Harris is charged with murder. And one more just for good measure, criminal who was bailed out of jail by nonprofit funded by Biden staffers violently assaults man, leaves him with traumatic brain injury and fractured skull. So when you actually double down on this idea that we're going to go ahead and get everyone out of jail because they're peacefully protesting, you're actually going to be letting out criminals as well. And so Kamala Harris is trying to reinvent herself as this law and order candidate, right? She's saying, oh, she's a prosecutor. She was really tough on crime. When as a matter of fact, this is what she was doing.
In 2008, I was framed for murder and wrongfully convicted by the office of Kamala Harris, sentenced 50 to life in prison. It took me 5.5 years to ultimately get back in the trial due to prosecutorial misconduct, and it took me another year to go to my second trial, to which I was vindicated by a jury of my peers. When I got convicted, Kamala Harris was in the courtroom. When I got sentenced 50 to life in prison, Kamala Harris was in the courtroom. when I look back and I seen her, she was smiling. And she did that stupid ass laugh that she do right now. This shit ain't funny. Some will argue she's not at fault. She didn't argue the case. Well, it was her office. 2 times that Kamala Harris showed up to my trial was when I got convicted and also when they laid down the sentencing. She was the head of it. She overseen it. She had to. It was a murder case, right? And at the end of my paperwork, it's a stamp and seal, Office of Kamala Harris. And during my appeal process, I have to go up against her again. People that's fighting against my appeal to keep the conviction is the Attorney General office. At the end of the paperwork, again, stamp and seal, the Office of Kamala Harris.
That's an account by Jamal Trulove, a man who was basically framed for murder by Kamala Harris's prosecutorial office, all right? They withheld information that exonerated him and was only uncovered through court order that she had to release it, and that is how he basically got out of a murder conviction. All right, so wrongfully accused. And don't forget, Kamala Harris also kept people in jail past their time served, all so she could get the free labor in California. That's who we're dealing with now. And by the way, a lot of those convictions were for marijuana usage, something she herself actually admitted to. So on one hand, she's cackling and laughing it up, while on the other hand, destroying actual people's lives. But of course, that's what Kamala Harris does. She was the border czar, and what did she do? She let open the floodgates, didn't even go down to look at the scenario, and rather allowed the lives of millions of Americans and communities to be ruined across this nation. And now all of a sudden, we're supposed to turn a blind eye and say, oh, she's the best thing ever? People aren't stupid. They can see that Kamala Harris has not changed an inch. And just because there's all this massive multimedia campaign going on full of millions of dollars, that she's all of a sudden changed her spots, not going to be bought by a whole lot of people. And speaking of a whole lot of people, let's take a look at some polling from Trafalgar, right? Because if you look at common polling, all we're seeing is Kamala Harris is trouncing Trump. She's making gains, all of this other stuff. But over here we have, as of August 10th, North Carolina presidential ballot, Donald Trump is up on Kamala Harris by 3.7 points. And over here, if we look at Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is up on Kamala Harris by 1.4 points. Come down here looking at Nevada, Donald Trump is up on Kamala Harris by 3.4 points. And if you look over here at Arizona, Donald Trump is up on Kamala Harris by 1.2 points, okay? We don't have Wisconsin. They don't have any information on that. We don't have Michigan. We don't have any information on that, but hopefully it will be coming in the near future. So not every poll is pointing to this landslide win by Kamala Harris, because guess what? They can only hide and manipulate this information for so long before they have to actually start reporting on the truth, because elections are coming up very quickly. We're about less than 3 months now. So if all of these pollsters want to have the results of the election match the results of their polls, they really have to start tightening them up in order to see what's actually happening. And by the way, Donald Trump, who's not going to just sit down and take this lightly, has put together a wonderful montage of Kamala Harris's word salad. Because remember, there's a reason why she is not out there giving interviews. There's a reason why she's not out there saying what she actually stands for as president. And that's because she would be exposed on both fronts as a radical leftist moron. So check this out.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files in some file cabinet that's locked in the basement of the house. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right? The Caribbean nations, island nations. In the Western Hemisphere, that is where the Caribbean is. We are also in the Western Hemisphere. They are our neighbors. I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank, talking about what we have in terms of the eastern flank. I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know?
Space is exciting.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
We will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. Yes. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. It's really difficult to drink out of a paper straw when you if you don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend.
Yes.
And then, you know, the little thing catches it. And then, you know, so we got to kind of perfect that one a little bit more. Do you know, okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022?
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence.